Now let's talk about design concepts and tools and our perception as designers. So here I borrowed the word other from the feminist philosophy, which perceives that the world has been designed by men for men, and that they see the female body and the woman as something different, as the other, the non-man. So here we will use this other in order to understand people who are different than us, or who we perceived as different than us. And the issue is that when we design for those groups, those people who we perceived as different, we may have a lot of blind spots. For example, the crash test dummies are usually based on the average male body of a specific age, and that has as a result for women to have more fatal accidents when they are wearing the seatbelt. Our designs can actually have a big impact. So more details about the crash test dummies and the female crash test dummies you can find in the links below. But this was a design that came from the past, where women, they weren't allowed to drive, or weren't supposed to drive, and there were a lot of men working in the car industry, and then they started creating crash test dummies for safety, and they were creating based on the average driver, which was themselves at that point. The next picture is a biostove that burns wood to prepare the meal, and it was a big health hazard for some communities, as the fumes could make people around it have some breathing issues or even die. Some designers were gathered to figure out a solution on this so they can save people's lives. So they designed a couple of stoves, but the women who were using the stoves didn't really use the new safe stove. And the idea was that, okay, the reason that they don't use them is because they don't know how to use them, so let's go and teach them. However, the mistake was that none of these women were involved in the design of these stoves. One of the designs needed to have the wood in a way that the women would need the help of a man to cut the wood, so they couldn't have as freedom on when they will cook. They had to first ask their husbands or their sons to cut the wood for them and then start cooking. The second stove cooked the food too fast, and they didn't take into consideration that these women had to multitask, had to take care of the children, the home, other household activities while they are cooking. So if the food is cooked too fast, they won't be able to multitask. So at this point, we ask ourselves where the bad design stops and when the education of the user begins. When we design for people that we perceive as other, we perceived as different than us, it's really good to involve some representatives of those people. More examples like this about the differences between women and men you can find in this book, Invisible Women by Caroline Criado-Perez. You will find the link in the description. But let's move to deaf space again. When I was reading the book What Can a Body Do?, describing the deaf space, the author said that in the campus had a really loud music. So the idea there was not to actually listen to music, but to feel the vibration of the music. So this is a completely different experience of music. And if we could create music based on vibration, probably the music industry would have been completely different today. So excluding people with different abilities than ours can lead to not really understand life in its full extent. Here we can see different designs from the deaf space.
The deep arc then becomes a problem because the teacher wanting to connect with the student starts walking into that space and now has left people off to the edges are now visually not necessarily able to pick up on what's being said. It's always a real tension as to what that arc is. Is it a deep U or is it more of a crescent or is it two?
So we can see that our design decisions influence people's perception of what we say and people's views. So here we have two concepts, universal design and inclusive design. We will not dip into this, but the main idea behind universal design is that you have to design an artifact from the start in order to include as biggest variety of people as possible, like these stairs, that there are places for wheelchair users, for people to climb the stairs, and for people that they just need to have a support while going up or down the stairs. So the universal design says that we should design with a target to accommodate as broad of an audience as possible, while inclusive design supports that we have to be aware that we cannot design for everyone. So we have to design for the people that we think we should include first, and then expand this design so we can include more people. The inclusive design supports that it's kind of impossible to design something from the beginning accessible from everyone, as you cannot know the needs of everyone. So in the inclusive design, the structure is similar to the user-centered design, like exploring the needs, creating solution, evaluating how well the needs are met, and so on. But Microsoft has a different framework, starting with recognizing the exclusion from the piece of technology that we have today, recognizing the exclusion, solve for one, so we can include one more group of people or one more person, and then extend this solution to include more, and slowly learn from diversity. Here it's a tool to enrich personas. Personas are design tools used for designers to help them being focused on the target user and empathize with the user, and keep in mind that they design for this particular group of people. The persona with the empathy map includes some extra features like pain, gain, hear, see, think, feel, say, and do. And it's not just a description of who the person is, is their age, their skills and hobbies and their work, but also how the person feels and thinks. You can find the link of this article that describes in detail this persona with empathy in the link in the description of this video. Similarly, you can find the link for this article in the description of this video, which is a framework for empathy in design. I really like this framework because the authors actually understand that even though you try to empathize and you try to mimic the experience of the other person, for example, if a person has lower vision, you can blindfold yourself, or you can wear glasses that lower your vision so you can see the experience of the other person, but you need to take a step back and reflect that this was your experience of 1 hour, 1 day as long as you were wearing these special glasses that make you see the world differently. And it's a completely different experience in comparison to the person who actually lives like this every day. Yes, in the beginning you empathize, you immerse to the experience of the other person, but then you have to take a step back and understand that your experience is a different experience than the other person. You need to understand the limits of empathy. We talk about user-centered design and how we can put the user in the center and understand their needs and be in service of the user. However, when it comes to design for someone that we perceived as different, it's good to involve them and go more into participatory mindset, where we empower the other people to teach us how it is to live the way that they live and to understand their needs from their perspectives in order to design something for them. The most important thing is to be aware that we will definitely exclude some people, because it's impossible to know the variety of people that are out there, but we have to be aware of this exclusion. We have to know that inclusion is a process, that it will happen gradually as more and more people use the product. So this is the end of the short videos about design and diversity. Feel free contacting me if you have any questions.